Once again, I'm here with my oft partner in crime, Brandy White. And this is Brandy's picture here, you're looking at. And we're going to come back to this picture. And there's a reason this picture is on the screen. And I want you to take a good look at it, because here in a little bit in this video, you're going to hear a statement from a sitting representative, actually the chair of the Volusia County Council. You're going to hear a statement from him about her and that particular sign. And I want you to remember what you see here in this picture. Now, how tall are you?
I am 4'11".
Yeah, I always tell you that you're the size of a garden gnome. So, Brandy's 4'11". So I want you to look at that sign and just remember this picture. So we're gonna start off here. Now, this was on March 3rd when you went and addressed the county council.
Correct.
And we've already went over many times, here on this channel about the false charges that were brought against. Yeah, for those that are new, really quickly, Brandy goes into City Hall. She's trying to get some public records. She is recording, which is her right. Camille Hooper, finance director, she didn't like the fact that she was recording. Well, tough. You work for the government, get used to it. And then the city manager, former, finally, round of applause. Finally, the former city manager forced Camille Hooper to file an affidavit against Brandy for a violation of the Florida wiretap.
Yeah, wiretapping.
Yeah,
okay. Wiretapping.
Right. This is already settled law. Smith v. Cummings in the 11th Circuit Court, and more specifically, McDonough versus Fernandez-Rundle out of the 11th Circuit Court down in Miami. The problem here is that the sheriff's department, the gatekeepers, the ones that are supposed to look at something and say, no, there's no crime here. They went ahead and they filed these charges. They walked them over to the state attorney.
Zero investigation. Didn't even call me.
So, how did you find out?
I found out because I was in the middle of an adoption, and they do background checks on you constantly.
Somebody was actually going to adopt you?
No. But we were coming up to the final hearing on the adoption, and so they ran my background check yet again, and this popped up.
That you had a felony.
That I had a pending felony charge against me.
Yeah, and it's still, if we were to go to the clerk of the court's page to this day, it's when you run her name, it shows felony. Now, if you click on it and go inside, you'll find out that nothing happened.
If you go in and poke around. But the problem that I have found along the way is nobody does that. They pull the record, and what they see is I was assigned a case number to a case that didn't exist. I had a judge that I never seen, never went before, and never picked up any details of my case. And it says felony on it. It doesn't say never charged or anything after it. It literally just says felony.
No, doesn't say no pros.
Nothing. Unless you keep clicking in and around there. And it has come back to me several times already. I've had to not only carry around that little memo from the state attorney just to be like, look, really, I didn't do anything. But it has caused me issues for people who didn't take the time to look a little further. So,
I mean, and quite honestly, they didn't even, it's not that they no-pros this, they just rejected it.
Absolutely. They said they couldn't even find the basic building blocks to even think of creating a charge.
I don't even think yours got past intake.
No.
So we're talking about the lowest person on that rung that looked at this and went, are you people crazy?
And if somehow they can say that there was people before that passed along, I'd like to meet those people as well.
Yeah. So let's take a listen to what you had to say on the 3rd of March. Now, give us a real quick, why were you there?
Right. So I was here because my main concern over the experiences I've went through over the past 5 years with the city of Deltona was the misuse of our sheriff's department against the residents. And so my main concern in all of this is to ensure that that doesn't happen again and that it stops. that the culture is gone. That is not something that we have to worry about anymore. So, of course, I had to file the 2 claims resulting from the misuse of the sheriff's department the first time that resulted in that felony. Because, with that felony, there was other instances. Remember when they called them out there and tried to claim, like, I was there to assault them, but I was just trying to serve them their notice? So, there's multiple instances that don't have time to get into, but
those videos are on my channel, so people can go watch that.
So I was there to bring it to the attention of the county council as well because, it's the sheriff's department. So I felt it was in my best interest as I'm moving forward with the next steps of this notice of claim that they're aware. And so I was bringing it to their attention that this was occurring and the concerns that come with that. And I didn't know it was 3 minutes. I remembered slightly in the back as I was sitting down that city meetings are 4 minutes, these are 3, because I've been here twice. So I knew I wasn't going to fit everything in, so right beforehand I'm kind of cutting down what I have to say, and you see in here towards the end, I'm just throwing things out as quick as I can because the time's dropping down. And I didn't even get through a fraction. And as I'm looking up there, I'm I don't think they even remembered my name. So that's why I was there the second time as well. But that's
so. Let's take a listen.
Brandy White, and I will need your address. You don't have your address on that, please.
I don't feel comfortable stating my full home address, and why I'm here will explain why I don't feel comfortable doing so. But I do live in the city of Deltona practically my entire life. So Brandy White, Deltona. See something, say something, right? It's what we're being taught. It's what we're being told. But what does that sometimes get you? Retaliation and or attempts at intimidation. The results are permanent, they're public, and they're damaging. Are you aware that you could be walking around with a pending felony charge and have no idea somebody has pressed a charge against you? Did you know that once any file hits the state attorney's office, it becomes a public file that's easily accessible online by anyone? You read that right. You could be completely innocent, never charged, never arrested, and still will be marked permanently and publicly. In 2016, the New York Times ran an article that said there's a word for people who aren't convicted of a crime, and that is innocent. They went on to identify that everyone who enters the criminal justice system can be marked for life. Even the briefest minor interaction with the justice system can leave someone with a criminal record and a permanent barrier to a job, housing, education, or even an occupational license. In fact, in 2016, Tennessee recognized and admitted the burden of a record in a computer system can create after a class action was filed finding, quote, "It makes no sense, no case, no record." Due to the clear validity of the class action, Tennessee started implementing changes to ensure this injustice ceased and took corrective action on those already affected. So why am I bringing this to your attention today? Well, it was brought to my attention that many of you may not understand what has been going on in the entirety of Volusia County. The city of Deltona went quite rogue, and recently the city manager used Volusia County Sheriff's Office to impose retaliation and intimidation on its residents. Not once, not twice, but 3 fully documented occurrences. One of these instances brought about a false felony charge. There was no investigation. It just went straight to the attorney's desk, therefore creating a damaging record that should not exist, one that I just spoke of. I was never charged, I was never arrested, and was cleared of any wrongdoing by the state attorney's office, yet this felony still appears when you look at my name under the clerk of court records. Under any simple background check, that's going to appear. And it did appear in the middle of my adoption proceeding. In addition, it appears legit at first. I was given a case number, I was assigned a judge, one I never saw, never stood in front of, and never laid eyes on my case. Essentially, the public record is not only misleading, but extremely damaging. To his credit, Sheriff Chitwood did attend the City of Deltona's recent workshop held on January 27, 2020, where he informed the commission that these instances did indeed occur, that his deputies at the time were used as, and I quote, her personal bodyguards, and a commissioner stated on record that Jane had overstepped her position and threatened the contract if they didn't comply.
Sheriff stated any football that I have under the sheriff here has been from Jane trying to manipulate the sheriff to be her personal bodyguard. We saw it, and he lists the 3 instances.
Thank you, Brandy.
Thank you.
Now, the first thing I want to point out here, the people watching this, if you rewind it, listen to that, turn the volume off, mute the volume, and just watch. Now, these are the elected representatives. I'm going to just go back right here. I believe this guy right here, is that not Fred Lowry?
I do believe so, yes.
I believe
that's our representative.
Yeah, this is our representative for our area in the county council. Did you see what these people were doing? None of them were paying attention to what she had to say. They're playing with papers, they're playing with their screens. We got this one waving at somebody, who knows who, but obviously she was happy to see somebody that walked in the chamber, probably a donor, that she's waving at, rather than paying attention to one of the residents that is coming to them with a very serious issue. And let me just point something out. This is the Florida Constitution. This is Article 1, Section 5. Right to assemble. The people shall have the right peaceably to assemble, to instruct their representatives, and to petition for redress of grievance. I would say that's pretty much what you were there for, right?
Absolutely.
So we'll jump ahead, and this is why we're here. So before we start this next part, tell me what you were doing.
So this next one is the following meeting from the one we just watched. So they go in session every 2 weeks. So this is 2 weeks later. And within those 2 weeks' time, what I noticed is that not even my own representative reached out to find out what I was even talking about. I really expected at least someone up there to be like, this sounds serious. Like, maybe I need a little more information on what she's talking about. And then I started thinking, well, I had to cram so much in 3 minutes. And near the end, I was like talking so fast just to try to get everything in. And then I still didn't. Then maybe I needed to go back. So I decided to come back, and this time I brought the sign that I was always bringing when I was talking about this issue back, I don't know, like 6 months ago. Mm-hmm. And it's the same little scientific project trifold, right, that you buy at like the Dollar Tree. Mm-hmm. And for those who didn't see me out at Deltona City Hall, I often brought it out there, and in the middle it has the big "what would you do" question, because that's my question to people. If this happened to you, detail to detail, just change the people who are in the shoes. What would you do if this happened to you? And then on the side, to kind of grab attention, it says the see something, say something. Because again, that's what got me in all this mess. I saw something and I wanted to speak up about it. So that's the two things really you can see from afar. The rest of it talks about the scenarios that have applied in my life and what has it caused due to having this false felony show up like it's a real thing. And so, it's an information board. It literally is,
there's nothing derogatory.
Oh no, it literally, if you look at it, and I believe Mike Springer, after I got ejected, came out and he took a picture, but he asked if he could get a picture. I was sitting behind it on the floor. And so I'm like, yeah, sure, go ahead. And he said, so this is the one that, you got removed for? I said, yes. And he goes, oh. Like, he was surprised, like, really, what is wrong with this? It's asking a question. And the reason I brought that board specifically is because that is directly related to why I was there. It was something to get their attention, to make them maybe remember me and what I'm going to be speaking about. And if nothing else, maybe cause them to engage me in conversation between sessions, right? And, well, that's not exactly what happened.
So, ultimately, the reason that Brandy and I are here talking about this, and I have to say, the city of Deltona, I have to give them kudos on one thing. They broadcast live their commission meetings on the internet and on cable. Their audio and their video is just amazing compared to this garbage.
Absolutely.
This is it. This is your one camera angle, so you can't see Brandy where she's sitting.
Yeah, I'm literally where this guy is sitting here. I'm about 2 to 3 seats over and just right behind that row. So I'm literally right here.
You're like 3 rows back?
No, 1, 2. I'm in the second row,
In
so
the second
you
row.
you can barely see where I would be. But if you're looking at the screen, if you scoot over about 2 to 3 chairs to the right, and then 1 row back from that, I'm right there.
Well,
So I'm behind him, the row behind him.
How many other people were there?
Maybe 5.
And
so you had one that was near the very top of the section, kind of where we were sitting in the middle. And then there was really nobody else over in that section. And then there was a couple to the left and to the right. But everybody was very spread out. And again, I didn't want the poster board to cause any issues. So I didn't even sit it all the way on the seat. I sat it right on, the armrest kind of part. And you see how the seat folds up. So it kind of had to lean back. So
Right.
It wasn't even straight up and down. And so it kind of had to lean back. And so I knew that all they would probably see was the big words. But I thought that would be enough to at least, get their attention of, hey, I wonder what that says.
Okay. So you had this sign, and as I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, according to Ed Kelley, the chair, it's a pretty big sign, right? It's like it's four.
He does say later, and I hope we go through that in
Oh, we
this
are.
meeting. Somebody sent me the clip, and I watched it back, and he said some 4-foot sign, and I'm thinking, wow, that thing was like up to my chin, like.
So you guys remember the photograph that we started off on? That was the sign. She is 4'11", and he claims it was a 4-foot sign that. And what was it he told you?
Yeah,
that
it goes right above my knees.
He just didn't want to look at it.
That when I asked him the basis for him telling me I couldn't display it and I had to put it away, was he didn't want to look at it.
So you're just sitting there at this point. You haven't spoken yet. You're minding your own business, right?
Right. So there was 2 instances before this section here, before they went live. I was sitting in my chair, going over my binder of what I was going to say, and waiting for the meeting to start. In about, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes till the meeting starts, they start walking in and sitting down. And the first thing he did was look over at me, and he goes, "You're going to need to put that sign away." And I looked at him, and I'm just like, "Can you show me any type of rules, regulations, procedures, statutes, anything that shows that I can't have the sign?" And he got very mad, and he was like, it's my room, my rules, and I don't want to have to look at it. And I said, well, I understand that's your preference, but my preference is to display the sign, so I need to see what regulation you're using for a basis of me having to put my sign away. And he just started giving me this really nasty look, and then that's when the countdown for everything goes, and they were turning on the mics and all that, so it got quiet. And then that's when I got called to speak.
So basically,
Literally, I was just sitting out there, and he walked out. Nobody else had said a word.
So, but you're asking him what rule?
Yeah, just show me. Give me something to understand your basis of why you're telling me I need to put away what I'm trying to say. Like, that is what's on that board is what I'm literally trying to say. It's my words.
So again, I want to go back to and I just and Brandy, she knows this as well as I do. The reason she's asking, show me the rule, is because her and I both know
There is none.
they cannot make a rule. Okay. Section 4, Article 1 of the Florida Constitution. Freedom of speech and press. Every person may speak, write, and publish sentiments on all subjects, but shall be responsible for the abuse of that right.
Absolutely.
So when we talk about the abuse of that right would be, okay, number one, if I were to just, say something very disparaging and character assassination in writing or speech or publish about Brandy.
Jane did that.
So I would be, because now this becomes a civil issue. Neither one of us work for the government. I'm not disparaging her as a government employee. I am disparaging her as just another person. So she can now turn around and sue me for character assassination, defamation of character, if I do it in writing for libel, if I do it in speech or in, like, let's say a video like this, she could sue me for slander. Because that would be me abusing that right, and it would be up to a jury at that point to decide, did I abuse that? Did I go too far with, by whatever it was I said about her when she sued me? Now, it's kind of hard to do that when it comes to government, because we have got multiple Supreme Court findings. The Supreme Court has opined many, many times on this very subject, that if you are in government, you need to have a thick skin, okay? You got to be willing and ready to accept the criticism. So there's really not a whole lot that you can say in seeking redress of government that is actually could be considered defamation of character. If you don't like it, don't be in government. Don't work in government. No law shall be passed to restrain or abridge the liberty of free speech or of the press. No law. So they cannot make a law. They cannot make an ordinance. They can't make a rule.
Correct.
There is nothing that they can do to restrain or abridge this freedom of speech.
Let alone make up your own.
Exactly.
And if you hear him later in the video, he says, it's my rule.
Yes. And then that what he told you when you asked.
Yes, it's my rule, and this is my room and my meeting, and I don't want to look at it. His quotes.
So this is Ed Kelley. He thinks he's a king. He doesn't understand that he is a representative. He is an elected representative. He thinks he is a king. And it is time, we the people, need to remind him that he is not a king.
And whoever comes after him.
And I'd like to just point out one other little thing. This is number one, right here. Article 1, Section 1. All political power is inherent in the people. The enunciation herein of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or impair others retained by the people. These rights belong to us. We have them by the very virtue of our birth. For those who believe in a creator, we were given them by our creator, but by our very nature of being alive, we have these inherent rights. These documents do not give us rights. These documents are there to remind the government of what they are not allowed to do, that they are not allowed to pass a law that would restrain or abridge the liberty of speech or of the press, that every person may speak, write, or publish sentiments on all subjects.
Yes.
So you were told to fold up your sign and put it away because he didn't want to look at it.
He did not want to look at it. And I kept asking what was his basis, and every time that was the answer. I don't want to have to look at it.
Okay. So let's take we're going to listen real quick to what you had to say this time around.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Brandy White, Deltona. See something, say
I
something,
need your
right?
physical address, please.
I prefer not to give my physical address. See something, say something, right? I even dressed in the same attire in hopes that you'll recall who I am and why I'm here. Since this is still yet to be resolved, I'm here to recap and will continue to come here to recap. The city of Deltona went quite rogue, and the result was a city manager who used the Volusia County Sheriff's Office to impose retaliation and attempted intimidation on its residents. Not once, not twice, but a minimum of 3 fully documented occasions. One of these brought about a false felony charge. There was no investigation. It went straight to the state attorney's desk, therefore creating the damaging record that I spoke of. I was never charged, never arrested, and was cleared of any wrongdoing by the state attorney's office. Yet, a felony still appears under my name when you do the simplest of background checks, like via the clerk of court. It appears legit at first. It looks completely legit. I was given a case number. I was assigned a judge, one I had never seen, never stood in front of, and one that never reviewed any details of my case. Essentially, this public record is not only misleading, but extremely damaging. To his credit, Sheriff Chitwood attended the city workshop on January 27th, where he informed the commission that these did indeed occur, that his deputies at times were used as her, and I quote, personal bodyguards, and that the city manager often overstepped her position and threatened the use of our contract. Let that sink in. At one point, we had a sheriff's office that allowed a rogue city to use them against their own residents and attempt to silence them. That is the epitome of why we have a constitution. How does any agency designed to serve and protect its citizens allow themselves to be used as weapons? And now, how do I ever trust them again? How do I maintain my respect for them? How can you? How can my children? Sheriff Chitwood standing up, taking responsibility, and admitting what he calls faux pas, that was a huge first step in repairing the lost trust and respect, and I thank him for doing the right thing regarding this matter. What would you do if this happened to you? Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy. Gary Conroy.
So, again, we, pretty much the same thing she tried to tell them the first time. And if you were watching, and I know this video, their video is just horrendous, but you notice nobody up there is paying attention. So
yeah, on and off you get some over here on the side paying attention, but not over there.
So, and I just want to point out this guy over here by the flag, that's the former sheriff. Now he's the guy who should be paying attention more than anybody.
Now I just want to chime in on that because there is something that upset me with him. When I came and spoke the first time afterwards, I walked up and spoke to him about what went down. He advised me to get an attorney and sue the city and the county and everybody else, right? So, and he tells me he knows more about it than I think he knows and all this stuff. Well, after this happens, because, I'm walking off, so there's another incident that happens after this regarding my sign again. And when he sees me out in the hallway when they recess for lunch, he comes out and he says, "How you doing?" I said, "Well, not so great." He goes, "Well, you shouldn't have been so disruptive." And I said, "What exactly did you find disruptive?" He goes, "Well, I'm not going to argue with you, but those are his rules." So, and then I'm just like mind blown. I'm like, you used to be the sheriff, and that's what you have to say of everything that just went down.
So that's what we call cop-splaining. Is I'm just going to say to you what I think, what I want to say. And when you give me a legitimate argument or you want to legitimately debate me on the facts, I'm going to tell you, well, I'm not going to argue with you or I'm not going to debate you. Why? Because they have nothing. They have no foundation.
He was the sheriff. Should he not understand the Constitution and that was unconstitutional about what just happened?
Should he? Or yes, he should. Do we have a sheriff now that understands the Constitution? No, we don't. He didn't understand the Constitution. None of them do. They don't seem to understand the history of a sheriff and the constitutional value that is placed within a sheriff.
It's in their sworn oath. Uphold the Constitution.
So you basically, now tell me what happened, because next,
you see me walking off, I'm going to go sit down in my chair.
Yeah, and you're just going to go back and sit and
so I did. I went back and sat in my chair, and there was about 2 to 3 other people that spoke, and they cut to recess because they don't start their actual meeting until 10 o'clock. And we got done, I'd say maybe 9:50-ish, maybe 9:45-ish. And so I'm sitting in my seat, and they take recess. So I'm going through my binder, and what catches my attention was how quick he jumps up after it goes to recess. He sits there for a second, and he's just like kind of looking at me, and then he gets up. And he walks over and talks to the sidebar over on to the left that you can't see out of range. And then he marches over, and I kind of look, and I see him talking to the sheriff's officer that's there. And I said, "Oh, tell me he's not about to do something stupid. Like, you are not going to bring him over here and intimidate me to your commands. Like, the worst thing you can do right now is to bring him over here. You could just come sit next to me and talk to me and be like, hey, so what's going on with the sign? You could have engaged me in any other way other than demanding that I bow down to your highness, because I don't live in a dictatorship world. So for the way he was treating me, he was trying to tell me what I was going to do, and that his wants and his rules overrode anybody else's. And sure enough, I messing with my binder again, I look over and I see them coming closer, so I just sitting there again, minding my own business. Nobody's speaking to me, nobody's talking to me. I'm looking in my binder, and in that front row where that guy is in the picture, they walk in that front row and they stand right in front of it, and I'm literally in the row right next to it, sitting. And they're leaning over the seats, and that's when the whole intimidation started of I will obey and comply to his demands without question.
So basically, once again, we have an elected representative that is using law enforcement. And the worst part is, you know what? I get that these people, they're scumbags to begin with. I don't know. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. My personal opinion is most people who go into politics are going into it because they want something out of it. It's not what they're going to give, it's what they can take. Very rarely do I ever meet somebody that is running for office that I believe actually just wants to give. There are a couple that I have met, and one that I am very hopeful that is going to be actually running for Ed Kelley's seat, that I am very hopeful that Jeff Brower is going to want to give and not want to take. But just really quickly, I just want to touch on and remind people, hopefully you've seen some of the other videos, and there's a couple more things that have come onto my radar that you haven't seen yet. I will be doing a video soon with Christina March. She's somebody who was basically doing the same thing Brandy was doing in New Smyrna Beach. And she hurt the feelings of the woman that was in charge of social media for the New Smyrna Beach Police Department. She, what is her name? Kayla Bartolucci. Kayla got her feelings hurt. And Kayla cried. And I've got some wonderful video that you guys will be seeing, some great body cam video where Kayla cries and then Kayla laughs and then Kayla cries and Kayla laughs. And I'm beginning to wonder if she doesn't have some kind of a rare form of, a mental illness where she just can't control, she's a rare form of bipolar where it just changes every, 30 seconds. So there's Christina March. Remember Patty Gibson, where they tried to trespass her from the center.
That's one of the three Chitwood listed as one of their faux pas. He admits to that incident.
Yep. And then there's another one, and I'm not going to mention names on this one simply because, this person wishes to keep their anonymity for safety reasons. I will say that it is a disabled veteran. And the electric company, Duke Electric in particular, used the sheriff's department to intervene in a civil matter and forced this person to allow a Duke Energy employee onto his property to install a digital meter that he did not want. He was willing to pay the extra cost to keep his old style meter. And right now, just to make a side note here, right now, Volusia County Sheriff's Department is stonewalling us on that body cam video. We've been asking for this body cam video for several weeks now.
Well, let's talk about body cam.
And they're stonewalling us.
I've requested the body cam from this incident, and I have several verifications now that he's not issued one. Therefore, there is no footage.
And we see that when they cut to, because I cut out part of this video because it was irrelevant. But after the public comments, they just go to a slate.
Right.
When they go to recess, that camera is no longer up. So you don't get to see the part where the deputies came over
Correct.
and lorded over you.
Correct.
So I know when you reached out to me that night, you texted me and you sent me this. I'm going to let you read this. This was posted on Facebook.
So, yes. So, I get home after this whole incident, the county courthouse or the county council meeting, and I get some messages. And one is, hey, I think this is referencing what happened to you today. And I see this post on Facebook from County Council District 4 Heather Post. And it says, to the woman who came to our Volusia County Council meeting this morning to speak during public discussion about an incident in Deltona. I saw that you had a homemade sign with you stating, see something, say something. You placed the sign on the chairs in the second row next to you. I apologize that the county chair asked you to move to the back of the room so as to not block anyone's view, and then asked a deputy to remove you when you questioned him as to why. I noted there was literally no one sitting in the entire section of chairs to block the view of, especially this morning with the threat of the coronavirus in the community. As a county councilwoman, I am embarrassed that anyone from the public was treated in this manner when you caused no disruption of view or of the meeting. So, I was surprised to see that. I wasn't sure who was paying attention or who saw what happened. And I got a lot of different messages in my inbox giving me their information, saying they were there, they saw what happened, things like that. And the thing that really stuck out to me on this, other than the fact that she verifies that I was not in any type of disruption whatsoever for that meeting, and that there was nobody there to block the view of, what she's talking about is moving to the back. So when they were looming over me, it was the second time when they actually brought the deputy over, not the first time before public comment. He did at one point, because I kept asking for proof of what he was stating, can I move to this back wall? Well, it's right there under the camera anyhow. So I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's fine because the council can still see my sign. Like, my point is for them to see what I'm trying to say. Like, hear me, right? So I move, I get up and I said, listen, just to compromise on this situation, but not because I have to, I'm willing to move this sign right over here. And I got up and I started walking over to that section and I put the sign up, and he made some remark about complying with his orders or something like that, that I was just like, no, you know what? No, now it's about principle. I'm going to go sit back in my chair where I was not bothering anybody and I was not blocking anybody's view, and I'm going to go back to minding my own business. Like, I was trying to be nice about it. I was trying to work and be in the middle, and he just flat out said, I don't want the sign displayed. I don't want to see it. I don't want to have to look at it. And I'm like, I understand that's your preference, but that's not the law. Like, there's no requirement for that. And that's when the officer became a little more aggressive, and he goes, I'll remove you if you don't listen to what he's saying and put the sign away. And I said, I guess you'll have to remove me. Like, it's constitutionally protected. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm even on the very low end scale of that. I'm not doing anything that I could be doing. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, and I'd like to point out, your sign could have said
lots of stuff.
F this council.
It could have said a lot of stuff.
And as much as King Kelley doesn't like it, the Supreme Court in Cohen versus California said one man's vulgarity is another man's lyric. And it is not up to the government to decide what speech they like and what speech they don't. Especially when it is written protest. If in Cohen versus California, Cohen actually had I think it was a t-shirt or a jacket that had very similar words on it, and went into a courthouse, and the courthouse didn't like it, and he ended up taking it all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court found in his favor. Now, there is a legal term for what they're doing here, and it is called prior restraint. Now, if you recall, Heidi Herzberg tried real hard to use prior restraint in the Deltona Commission, and what happened there?
It backfired, and I am really concerned for the council meetings coming up, because they are bringing this attention to themselves, and it's like, why would you? I was doing nothing. Well, I wouldn't have bothered you in the least bit, but what I really liked about what her post had said was that she saw the see something, say something. My whole purpose of having that sign worked. It got her attention and she understood what I was trying to get across. And it obviously worked enough. They didn't remember my name. They didn't remember who I was. They didn't remember exactly why I was there, but they remembered my sign.
I do want to point out, I mean, I am very glad that Heather Post put this out there, but I would be remiss to not tell people that Heather Post is also not above silencing her critics. I'm glad she did this. She gave you factual evidence. That's what. How many lawsuits do you have coming up against the city, county, sheriff?
I do have currently 2 claims, one against the city of Deltona, one against this Volusia County Sheriff's Office due to that previous instance with the false felony and the multiple times Jane called them out on me for no reason and, you know, personal escorts and things like that. So there's currently 2 claims. Next week I'll be signing everything to move forward on those. I did give an extra 150 days to try to work out some type of settlement because, let's be honest, the people who are going to pay for this are the taxpayers. And that includes myself. So it's kind of an oxymoron that I'm suing because I'll be suing myself and all my friends and relatives. But
wait a minute, you're suing me. I didn't do anything to you.
It's unfortunate, but I think that's why I have waited so long and tried so hard to get it just to settle out, because not only is it going to cost more in the end, but the evidence that's going to come out, it's going to be very damaging. And it's likely to cause investigations, which is great. So that's why I said I'm moving forward. I mean, you know, that investigations is what should have occurred long ago when I brought this forward. But, you know, a lot of people are probably going to get hurt from all the information, the emails and things that come out. And I just, you know, I love my city, you know, and I've been here a long time, and I don't want to do anything that further hurts it. But the truth is the truth. And that's what I have to speak.
You know, and sometimes, unfortunately, you have to spank a child to keep them
I guess, yeah.
from putting their hand on a hot stove. You know, it's just, you know, it's life. You know, sometimes these are people that cannot seem to learn correctly. They have to learn, and Chitwood is probably the worst offender of all. He does not, and I can tell you on more than one occasion, he has stood right in my face. Yeah, if you don't like it, sue me, just sue me, until
because it's not their pocketbook.
Until he knows a camera is running, and then it turns into, if I don't like it, run against him. Well, I'm not a cop. I don't want to be a cop. You know, I would never be a cop. I just could not be part of that club. Sorry. But you know, that's his go-to. There are 2 of them, and there's another one that you're going to see when on the video about Christina March, is if you don't like the way I do things, go to the FBI. And he said that to her twice in 2 separate emails that I have. So let's move on. Now we're going to listen to, this is at the end of the meeting, when, I'm not sure what her name is.
Gertman. Barbara Gertman, I believe.
Okay, thank you. She brings up what happened, and she has some questions for King Kelley. And by the way, I just want to make sure King Kelley is fully aware that the next signs that you see, and there will be signs, and they're going to have things on them that you really don't like. And you'd better sit there, shut up, and take it, because when we come back, and there will be more of us, believe me, I will be handing documents to your deputies to let them know of all the Supreme Court case law ahead of time. If they violate anybody's rights again, we will have their qualified immunity removed, and we will sue them personally. We will take whatever they own now and whatever they will ever own for the rest of their lives. So let that be a warning.
I did have one other question based on an earlier concern, and that is whether or not we should have a decorum rule for what the expectation is from the dais to the public. So I know the earlier concern we had with the poster. I've seen other posters, and I don't know that everyone has been treated equally. So I think if we define what those expectations are, and when someone wants to see what our rule or process is for that, we have that available, and we're not making it up on the fly.
Okay, I will address I have not seen other posters that I have not asked to be put down. I've had people with placards holding them up, and I've asked them not to hold them up. That's been my rule in every year that every place that I've operated. We don't allow people to hold things up and to do that and to take up the seats and to impair the vision. We do have a rule that if something that could be blocking the vision of others.
So I just want to stop right there because she is bringing up what I was asking for was for them to give me some type of reference to what he's referencing. I had nothing on what it is he was trying to reference to me because it didn't exist. It was just his rules. And that's where she talked about you shouldn't be making them up on the fly. And when he sat there and said, well, these other signs that have come in here, I've asked them to, not wave them or whatever. I wasn't, and he didn't ask me not to wave it. He said he didn't want to have to look at it and to put it away. So that there's a big difference between his scenarios that he gave there. And if he's saying that he has told people in the past that they have to put away their signs, then that sounds like there's more than just my violation here.
Oh, this is definitely prior restraint. Couple of cases out of Colorado. Some people may or may not have heard of Eric Brandt. Eric Brandt, he's been shut down in local, city council, city commission meetings out in Denver, and they've all had to write pretty big checks to him for doing that.
Let's see what he says.
And that would have, had we had a full house.
So is there a rule?
That
Is there a
comes up-
documented rule, or is that, because I heard you tell her that it was your rule. And
I'm
we're
enforcing.
So, here we have
She's
another
correct. Yes.
another elected representative pointing out to him that you said it's your rule. Well, it doesn't work that way. They are a council. They have to collectively decide through a vote. And what did we learn?
You still can't make that rule.
What did we learn earlier? That no law shall be passed to restrain or abridge the liberty of speech or of the press.
Correct.
So this is not even a rule that they have an authority to make. They'd like to. Apparently Kelley would like to, but they don't.
council,
I'm
so.
enforcing the rule that is stated. Michael, can you share that?
Sure. In Chapter 2 of your Code of Ordinances, you have a general rules of procedure that include courtesy to all. They're broad.
So right there, he says the rule they already have in existence is courtesy to all. So where was my courtesy? They were not showing courtesy to me whatsoever. He was very aggressive and demeaning in the way he spoke to me.
See, but here's the thing. When their ordinance that says show courtesy to all, that applies to them. That doesn't apply to you. You don't have to show them courtesy. None of us have to show them courtesy.
Absolutely. And that is what the kicker is in all of this, 2 times now I've shown up and been nothing but respectful. I may not have agreed to his demands, but I was respectful. I did not cause scenes, although I could have. I did not argue back in a mean and derogatory way. I simply just asked for proof of the rule he's referencing.
Look, I've been watching you at the podium for years now. There's been very, very few times that I've ever seen you lose your cool, and in those times you had every right to. Now, you've only seen me up there a couple of times, and I am a fireball. I do it on purpose. You know, I am not up there to make friends. I am up there to essentially, Brandy is the kind of person that you go in there and you point out, look, here are problems. We need to find solutions to these problems.
Absolutely.
When I see these violations of our constitutional rights, what I do is I go in and I dare them. Just like I did with Heidi Herzberg. And Heidi, I hope you see this. I hope you're listening and you remember. I go in and I dare them. I challenge them. And I will cuss them a blue streak. Why? Is it because I just don't respect? Well, no, I don't respect them if they are going to, sit there and violate our constitutional rights and our state constitution. I know I have no respect for them. And I am challenging them. I am daring them. Give me a reason to haul you into federal court. Because that is the only way we will work this out and get this corrected once and for all, is with the decision of a federal judge. And I will continue to do that. And I will be going to a meeting coming up soon with Brandy. Hopefully we're going to have others that are going to be joining us. We are going to have signs. And I am going to speak in the way I speak, and if King Kelley doesn't like it, and King Kelley, I'm challenging you right now. I dare you. Because I will hold you personally responsible, and I will sue you personally.
You also, in state law, it empowers the council to maintain orderly conduct in meetings. So
state law, he brings up, because I want to go beast by their reasoning. So he now says under state law, it's about keeping order in this meeting. The only person that was out of order was Ed Kelley. I was sitting in the chair, minding my business, not speaking to anybody. There was no order that needed to be kept in there. All he had to do was not look at my sign if he didn't like it. That's it. He could have looked at the other side of the room if it bothered him that much. It wasn't about that. It was about him trying to exert his power and show me that he had the power to make me do what he says I have to do, or I won't be allowed in my own public meeting. That's what this was about.
Well, and the funny thing about disorderly conduct is, and again, the appellate courts have opined on this many times. The Supreme Court has opined on this. The government cannot be an aggrieved party when it comes to a disorderly conduct. So the government cannot be the complainant. And, when you watch these videos of the First Amendment auditors and the Second Amendment activists, all these activists out there, and they get up in these cops' faces and they say and the cops have to stand there and take it. Why? Because the cop cannot be the aggrieved party. Now, if another member of the public, if they were to find that they found it disorderly and or offensive, okay, they can now go and complain. They can, if they want to write a formal complaint, they can go and file a formal complaint and a disorderly conduct charge can be brought against you.
But that was not the case here. There was no, and you saw both representatives up there on the right-hand side of your screen. They both confirm what I stated. There was no disruptions, no problems whatsoever. The only person that was causing a scene was Ed.
Yeah.
The discretion can be exercised as long as it's reasonable. If you, there are some jurisdictions that have adopted more specific procedures or rules as to decorum, which the council could consider as well.
So basically what he just said there is that there are other counties and cities in the state of Florida that are engaging in prior restraint and doing it unchecked.
And he's also talking about the decorum in reference to how they up there behave towards us, because that's what the whole beginning of the conversation was about, was the decorum between how they treat us.
Right. It is our right to seek redress of grievance.
And I think I did it in the right way, very respectfully, and And it's unfortunate that they wanted to take it this route instead.
Yeah, I saw absolutely nothing when you got up to talk in any way, shape, or form that was disorderly.
I mean, I was there alone too, so I don't understand. As far as they want to reach, they're not going to still find any reason where that was acceptable behavior.
The only way that you could have legally crossed a line was to physically threaten.
I literally was in my seat the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, without the existence of a physical threat, you would have had to have threatened bodily harm and or death against one of them in order to have crossed that line. Anything else is simply free speech.
So I just want to put it out there. If it's something that we want to consider to be more consistent, so it doesn't look like we're.
Okay, if you can cite something where I was inconsistent on that, Ms. Gertman, that'd be fine, but I don't
Well,
think
I know there was several groups that were here and had signs. Either it was for the septic to sewer, or it was for the barn, or it was for Sunrail, and there were signs. And no, they weren't as large and visible as that. But again, do we have an ordinance for what size the sign is, or? And like I said, I just want us to be consistent and be able to have the public be able to respond and hold us accountable for what our rule is.
Why is it that it seems like no one in government actually understands you can't make a law that says how big the sign can be? Why is it that these people don't know their job? Why are they running for office if they don't know their job?
Should we have a rule? But if we kind of make it up on the fly, then how does someone know what that expectation is?
Okay, I can't recall those, and I don't know that we have video evidence of that, of where we've had people with large signs holding them up. I do recall that I have asked people not to wave their signs or flags. On that one, I just asked if she would put it down, and she said no. And then I asked her if she would move it to the back where it wouldn't be blocking, and she did. And then she didn't want to move it, and then actually Kevin and Mr. Pozo both went out and told her she was welcome to come in and leave the sign placed in the back, and she chose not to. So
I agree.
Whatever,
but what I also heard her ask for was our rule or process. So
I use that as my discretion as the chair. If you want to leave it to the chair, whoever the next chair may be, or whoever this chair is, if you want to say, I can't do that, I'll abide by what y'all say.
He said a lot of stuff that wasn't accurate, and he skipped some details in there. I don't remember exactly what he was saying in the beginning of that, but when he talks about, he asked, he's never told, and he's told people previously, not to wave signs or not hold them up. That's still, even though he can't do that, that is still different than what happened with me. He didn't ask me to put it down on the floor so that it's not on the seat, or he said that there was a spot in the far back I could have put that is not what he said at all. That was never anything he said either. What he said is he didn't want to have to look at it, and that I could not display my sign and to put it away. He didn't say don't hold. I would have put it on my lap. I would, there's a million things I could have done to kind of make him a little happier if that was the case. But everything he's claiming right there, that is not how it worked. When he says he asked me to then move it a few rows back, and I did, but then I didn't, he failed to explain why I chose then not to. It's because of his comments about how he knew I would bow down to basically what he said. I knew you would comply with my orders. And that's when I'm like, no, absolutely not. Now I'm not going to compromise with you because I was trying to resolve the situation, and you want to come off like a dictator, and that's just not going to work for me. And when he talks about the attorney coming outside and telling me I can come back in and put my sign in the back, again, that's not what was said, and there is video evidence of what was said to me in the hallway. So he might want to be careful what he's saying up here, because that's a lie and it can be proven. What they came out and said is I could return in there if I left my sign. I could not bring my sign back in.
Definitely prior restraint.
100%. They said I could not bring my sign back in, including the other guy as I was leaving, and I'll show him here if he's in any of these videos, where he said again to me, are you going to come back after lunch when, we reconvene? You can come in as long as you don't bring your sign. So again, he's lying up here saying that they came out and told me I could re-enter and put my sign somewhere else. That's not true whatsoever.
My favorite part, though, is where he actually says, I don't think there's any video evidence. No, because what he did when he knew the camera wasn't on.
Off session.
He did it purposefully
Yep.
when the camera could not catch him, and there is nothing more slimy and disgusting than someone who represents the people that will sit up there and lie like that because they know that they did what they did on purpose at the time they did it so that they would not get caught.
And I think you're going to hear him lie here again in a second.
If you say that we can allow signs, placards, and waving, then I'll abide by it. But this is a place to conduct county business, and I don't think that is the place to put a 4-foot sign up that's visibly sitting there.
Right there, he lies again. He called my sign a 4-foot sign.
Yeah, and so remember in the beginning I asked you, please remember the picture that we started out on.
That's the 4-foot sign he's referencing.
That's the 4-foot sign.
Yes. As you can see, that's a regular kitchen living room chair. It barely goes above the seat.
Yeah.
It doesn't even hit my waist.
And you're 4'11".
I'm 4'11".
And that's
on a good day with shoes.
And that and that is that's his idea of a 4-foot sign.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And that's something he just did not want to look at. That sign right there.
This is why there's no faith in government anymore, is because of people like Ed Kelley. I mean, it's just Ed Kelley, Jane Chang, Heidi Herzberg, Nabik. This is why nobody trusts government. These people need to figure out that nobody respects them.
And everything I have to look out and see people, that's all that I see on a plate. So I can't see if there happened to be somebody back there. So if you want to allow
just giving
it.
my concern.
I know, I understand.
We have the rest of the board to determine if they feel it's consistent or if they feel that it should be, responded to in the moment, then so be it. But I wanted to.
We don't have.
The thing that gets me the most in this whole conversation, and I'm going to be honest, I respect Barb Gertman for bringing it up all together and standing up and voicing her opinion on it instead of just sitting quiet. Big respect for her on that. What I'm surprised about is everybody's talking about making these rules and is this fair treatment and are we being equal? You should be asking if this is constitutional. Nobody up there is asking, is this constitutional to do? Including a previous sheriff. Like, it's just, it honestly blows my mind.
That often, but I do think we should have a certain amount of decorum. And she was defiant, as she just said, can I?
And right there, he lies again. He says I was defiant. All I did, and it's stated by the county council, all I was asking for was some documentation, a guideline, rules, regulations, procedures, statutes, anything that said that I was not allowed to have my sign there. And he's calling that defiant. All because I said no. I understand what your preferences are, but can you show me where your preference for me to put it away overrides my preference to display it? That's not being defiant. That is asking a question of my representative, and he should be supplying me with the answer.
Well, the bottom line is that your rights don't end where his butthurt begins. That's just the way it is. And if he doesn't like it, get out of public service. You're a lousy public servant.
But he's lying once again, trying to say I was defiant. I never even got up out of my seat during his, tirade with, berating me into complying to his orders. That's not defiance. You had no right to do what you were asking me to do. And for that officer to come over and try to intimidate me, what law exactly was he trying to enforce? and he sure wasn't upholding the Constitution in that. So
that he swore an oath to.
I'm looking at him like, what is your role here other than to intimidate me? Because there was no reason for him to bring you over when he was going to come tell me to put my sign away again. He could have just come over and spoken to me. He did not have to bring over that deputy, and we know why he did it, and I was there speaking about it. It was to intimidate me into compliance on something that was not even lawful.
I think that is the thing that just really boiled my blood more than anything, is when I heard him say she was defiant. That's our job. That is our role in this constitutional republic, in this experiment called America. That is our role, is to be defiant.
Put it somewhere else, that would have been fine. And I think by the nature of her complaint, we can see that she wasn't really wanting to cooperate anyway, but that's beside the point. Counsel, you want to leave it to one-on-one?
Right there. I didn't want to comply. To comply to what? He didn't give me any rules, regulations, procedures, nothing that showed me I needed to comply to anything he was stating to me. Those, according to his own words, were his rules. He is not my father, so his rules don't apply. I don't understand why he feels his rules are above anybody's rights. And
the bottom line is
he's lying, saying that, well, you can tell by her nature of her complaint. Is he being serious? The nature of my complaint is this exact behavior. So that makes me right away not wanting to comply. It makes me standing up for myself. That's all I did, was stand up for myself and say, show me where I need to listen to what you're saying. And nothing exists.
You know, this is the master-slave mentality. He thinks that we are all slaves, and he is a slave master.
The discretion, or do you want to say you can have signs? If we get down to where you can't have signs, we don't have them that often. I thought that I had been fair in that. I was not singling her out. There was no intention on my part to try to single it out. Thank you. Counsel, you want to leave it the way it is? You want to say people can't have signs, they can't wave signs? Do you want to get into the definition? Or do you want to leave it to the discretion of the chair? And then if you want to complain at that time, or voice your opinion at that time, not complain, and say, Mr. Chair, I think we should leave them, then that's fine.
I would like to challenge anybody, including King Kelley, to please reference to me in the Constitution where discretion of the local county chair gives authority over the rights of the people. You sad, pathetic little man. You are a servant. You are the servant. And it's about time you figure out who your masters are.
I don't really think it's a matter of sign or no sign. I would just love to see everybody treated equally that comes into the
Another reference
from
that
the
I was
public.
treated.
I apologize
however
for
we
letting
do
any
that.
sign. I apologize for letting anyone come in with a sign and
I apologize for
obstruct.
anyone coming with a
the-
sign.
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure that I've ever seen you not, I've seen you every time a
Address
sign
any
comes
others.
in, you've asked them to lower them. In my opinion, I don't
Lower
remember a
them,
time.
not put them away.
It
I
was
tried to
different,
be
but
fair.
that could be just me.
If I'm not fair, call me out on it. How about that?
I think that's what she's doing.
Okay, you did. I responded, and but this time I thought I was consistent. But
This time.
if in the future someone come in with a bunch of signs and placards, and I don't ask them to wave and say, Mr. Chair, remember that March 17th date? You made her put them down. You gonna make these people put them down? I say, yes, counsel, I will. If I apologize
however
for
we
letting
do
any
that-
sign, I apologize for Chair I'm playing, and say, Mr. Chair, I think we should leave them, then that's fine.
I don't really think it's a matter of sign or no sign. I would just love to see everybody treated equally that comes into the from the public.
I apologize
however
for
we
letting
do
any
that-
sign, I apologize for letting anyone come in with a sign and obstruct the.
Mr. Chair,
yeah.
I'm not sure that I've ever seen you not, I've seen you every time a sign comes in, you've asked them to lower them. In my opinion, I don't remember a time that it
I've
was
tried
different,
to be
but
fair.
that could be just me.
If I'm not fair, call me out on it. How about that?
I think that's what she's doing.
Okay, you did.
How about this? If you're not constitutional, we're going to call you out on it. Guess what? You were not being constitutional.
Responded, and but this time I thought I was consistent. But if in the future someone come in with a bunch of signs and placards, and I don't ask them to wave them, say, Mr. Chair, remember that March 17th date? You made her put them down? You gonna make these people put them down? I say, yes, counsel, I will. You've only.
Well, guess what, King Kelley? If you do it again, now you're looking at potentially a class action suit. Let's see how many people we can get in there, and you tell them a greater number to put their signs down, or they have to leave. Because a class action suit is going to hurt a whole lot worse than the action that I hope that Brandy's going to bring.
We got 289 days me left and 18 meetings. Just counting. Okay.
So really, the rest of this is just a bunch of these idiots blathering on about, signs and rules and what they can, what they believe they can and cannot do. And I think that this right here, this tells the tale as to why he doesn't like signs. He doesn't like it when the people give him direction. And again, let's not forget that, what does this say? Section 5, to instruct their representatives. The people shall have the right peaceably to assemble, to instruct their representatives, and to petition for a redress of grievance. Now, I would like to point out that, again, the courts have had to look at what is peaceably. Peaceably doesn't mean that you are sitting quietly and you are obeying your master. Peaceably means you're not burning the place down. You're not throwing chairs. You're not, you're not physically attacking the people up there on the dais. You're not throwing rocks at them or, in any way, shape, or form, you're not creating mayhem. There's no physical damage. No one's getting hurt. There's no injury. Can you be loud? Yes. Can you take over the meeting? Well, it says all political power is inherent in the people. So I guess it's really our meeting, not theirs. And anything that they say to the contrary is in direct violation to this Constitution. This is the state constitution. We haven't even brought the Constitution of the United States of America into this yet. This is the state constitution. So yes, we do. We have the right to be loud. It's still considered peaceable. Until we start throwing chairs or setting the place on fire, that is peaceable. So what's your next move?
Well, clearly I need to go back to the county council meeting to address this incident that happened at the last meeting, and also to, again, the redress of grievance that I went there twice for. I still have not been reached out over the original reason I was there. So I will continue to go, like I said, and make them aware of what happened and what clearly currently still happens, because it didn't happen just once or twice. Now this is yet another time in a whole nother city, okay? And to me, again, so the rareness of it happening to the same individual in a whole, that tells you there's a culture. Like, it wasn't just a one-off thing in one city. This is a culture.
This is a pattern and practice of behavior. This is now 2 levels of government that have violated this woman's rights. And I've been working with you for years, side by side, working on this stuff. The only thing I have ever seen you try and do is, you're not asking for anything special. You're not asking for any special favors. All you want is for them to act lawfully. That is all you've ever done.
Correct.
Is you want them to act lawfully. and you dig and you dig. You're obsessive about it, and you go and you find those documents and you find those breaches of the public trust.
Yes.
Those unlawful acts, and you bring it to their attention, and time again, you get ignored.
Which is where the see something, say something fails. If I've been seeing it, and I've been saying it, and I've been showing you the documents, why hasn't anything occurred?
So this is a document that Heidi Hertzberg, mayor of Deltona, was reading prior to public comments at every meeting. And it went on and it talked about, no person shall engage in disorderly or boisterous conduct. Well, again, the government, they can't be the aggrieved party in, whistling, stamping of feet, booing, or making loud, threatening, or slandering utterance. Yeah, okay, nonsense. The use of profanity is not allowed. Well, the Supreme Court said otherwise in Cohen versus California. Making obscene gestures is not allowed. The Supreme Court has said otherwise. All shall be allowed. I love this. Will be allowed. They will allow us, slaves, to speak in a respectful manner without interruption. Verbal attacks on commission members, city staff members, blah, blah, blah. And Brandy, would you like to tell these fine people what it took to shut this down?
It took chaos, actually, and it took a lot of people coming and letting her know that her demands were unconstitutional.
But they didn't want the negative attention. And my quid pro quo was pretty simple. You stop engaging in prior restraint and telling people what they can and can't say and how they're allowed to address you, and I'll be quiet. I will not have a reason anymore to stand up here and make obscene gestures and use what you refer to as profanity, but the courts do not. And sometimes that's what it takes, is we have to get up and we have to do the very thing they are telling us we're not allowed to do, to make a point. And I think with this commission, or with this council, and with this pathetic little man right here, he needs to be taught a lesson the hard way. And that is going to be to fill that chamber up and be loud and be boisterous and be constitutional and bring our signs and wear our profanity-laden t-shirts and other garb and make him sit there and eat it. Because I really don't think that Chitwood can take any more negative attention, and I really don't think they can take any more lawsuits, especially not a class action lawsuit. Our job is to stand up to an out-of-control, overreaching government.
Correct.
And the time has come. And Ed Kelley, I want this known to every other member of that council up there. You have Ed Kelley to blame for what's coming. So, and I would like to point out that, again, Heather Post, she put her little comment on Facebook, but why didn't she say something then? Why didn't she stop it then? Why didn't she speak up? Why? You see something,
Say something.
And we thank you for your time, and we will be back soon. Please like, share, and subscribe. Share this on all your social media platforms. Let's get the word out and not let this happen again in your city or any other city across this country. If you didn't like what you saw in this video, if you didn't like the treatment of an American by her elected representatives, I would like to ask everyone who sees this to please take a moment and email or call the members of this council and let them know what you think. The only way that we are going to regain liberty in this country is we have to let our elected representatives know how we feel. And if we fail to do that, we have no one but ourselves to blame when they act this way. Here is a list of all of their names, phone numbers, and email addresses. Please take the time, contact them, and let them know that this cannot continue in America. It is un-American. Thank you.